Hello everyone and welcome back. We are continuing on with my painting study using different digital painting programs. Last time we looked at Rebelle 7, which I do want to point out is still having its 30% sale for the entire month of April. So if you are interested in checking that out, you can look at the previous video I did. I will provide a link for it, where we were trying to follow along with a painting tutorial by Robert Mee and trying to recreate it in Rebelle 7. This time though, we're going to be trying it out again in a different digital painting program, this time being Krita. Now Krita isn't specifically just for digital painting, it's actually a wonderful all-in-one art program where you can do pretty much anything. Illustration, animation, painting, comics, pretty much anything you'd like to do, you can do it within Krita. And the best thing about Krita is that it is 100% completely free. It is a wonderful program. We at Twinimation Studios use it all the time, and I always advocate for it. So I will include a link to the website for Krita as well. But today we're going to be using Krita because I actually, despite having used Krita for years for animation and illustration work, I really have never used it for painting. So I thought, since I had been doing so much digital painting recently, why not try it out in the program that I use the most? So today we're going to go over continuing our painting study in the program Krita, and I hope you will enjoy it. So to start things off, I pretty much by this point in time have gotten the hang of things. I know exactly what order I should be working on this painting since I've watched the tutorial several times already. So I'm just going to apply everything that we had been doing in Rebelle 7 now in Krita. So in Krita, I have downloaded a lot of different brushes from different people, so I have a lot of different types of brushes available to me. So you're going to be seeing me use a lot within this particular study. I will begin by saying that you can see that my canvas space looks a bit different than the one I had in Rebelle 7. Since the ratio and size of the canvas was a bit different, I decided to place my reference sketch over on the right hand side, whereas on the left hand side I decided to make a full palette for myself. All of those little colorful dots are basically just like the different colors that I know I'm going to be using throughout this entire painting. Many of them are just the base colors, but others are the different colors mixed together, since I already know I'm going to have cases where I need to, for example, mix blue and white for the eventual snow. So I just mixed that as an option and put it on the side. So I essentially have most of the colors that I know I'm going to need, and you can see me starting to work on the painting right now. Once again, I'm not going to show the full process of the painting since 1, it does get kind of repetitive after a while, and 2, we've already seen much of it in Rebelle 7, but again, I just wanted to show off how I approach this in Krita. And just like with the other video, I am going to be doing 2 different versions of this. I have my first attempt here, and I'm going to do a second one after that because I already pretty much knew that the first attempt wasn't going to be the best. Even though things are getting better, I knew that, just starting things out, this is still my first time really painting in Krita. I knew it wasn't going to be perfect right off the bat. In fact, it probably won't even be perfect in the second time, but still, I was going to try 2 attempts the same way I did last time. I figured I could just try to get the hang of things first, and once I'm in a space where I have a better workflow, I can then try out my second attempt, which will be the more important one. So you can see me doing pretty much everything I did in the first video, following along with what Robert Mee did in his video, and once again I will be including links to Robert Mee's video in the description, not to mention his channel, along with the links for Rebelle 7 and Krita if you want to check both of them out. But working with Krita is definitely different than Rebelle. Since Rebelle's sole focus is on painting, they have a big emphasis on making sure the painting textures look very realistic, and they have all sorts of different options for you. For me, I'm using pretty much a set of oil paints, some which are the default available in Krita, and a few are others that I have downloaded. And also, by the way, I will include some of those paint brushes that I am using if you guys want to check those out as well. But there are so many different brushes available for Krita. Normally they are all free to download since Krita is a free program itself, so I'll try to include some links for some brush sets that I'm going to be using, and even some brush sets that I don't show off here, but brush sets that I have and really recommend. I do think that the brush that I used this time around, starting off, was better than I had been doing previously with Rebelle 7. It's still another thick oil paint brush, and so it's working out pretty well. I'm able to blend and mix colors well. The only thing it's really lacking is, as I said before, the thickness. And originally I was actually going to use a special thick brush set for this painting. There is a brush set, which I will of course link, called the Memileo brush set, which is meant to really closely resemble real oil paints. And I had been trying those out, but I just didn't think I was using them properly, and it wasn't looking as best as it could. I don't think I really just had the hang of it yet. So instead of working with a brush set that I didn't think I was using really well, I decided to just use some brush sets that I already had downloaded, along with some defaults already in Krita. So that's what you're going to be seeing me do for most of this video, like I said. Again, I'm following along with everything I did in Robert Mee's video, trying to speed it up just so things are moving quickly enough for you guys, because again, the process, we've already seen this process twice already in Rebel 7, we're just redoing it in Krita, but still, I wanted to show you guys how the process worked and what I found different. So like I said, I do think since I'm more familiar with Krita, it was easier for me to get the hang of things. And since I had been painting so much in Rebel 7, I kind of understood more what I had to do, but there are still different methods where I could improve. And ironically enough, what I ended up deciding to do was, after I finished up with this painting, I ended up switching the brushes again, and the brushes I end up using in my second attempt are actually a bit flatter than the ones I'm using here. The brushes that I'm using here are already pretty flat on their own. They don't have too much thickness, which again was one of the issues I thought I had last time, that my brushes weren't thick enough. But part of me started to think a little bit about maybe I can try using these brushes and create the illusion of thickness even with some flat brushes, which I think I was starting to get the hang of in general. So once we get to the second attempt, you're going to see me work more on that, but you can see me doing that right now as I'm trying to make these snow patches actually look like they have a thickness, that they are covering up the road that is done in purple, and you're essentially going to see me add more bits and splotches of paint to create the illusion that this is very actually weighted snow on the ground, even with using flat colors. And I do think it ended up working out pretty nice. Here I'm working a bit more on the sky in the background behind these trees, and I do believe I ended up doing the trees much better in the second attempt. Like I said, this was really more of like a practice round for me, just to make sure I was able to work properly with the brushes I wanted to use and the different painting style that I was going to work on here for this particular painting. So I think all of that turned out pretty nicely. But overall, I'm going to just skip ahead toward the final attempt now, and we're going to talk a bit about it, because we're pretty much done here. I'm just making some more final refinements. So let me show you what the final product ended up looking like. This is how attempt 1 turned out. And first I'm going to go over the things I like about it. I do think I'm handling the warm colors really well, particularly the sky and the small reflection of the sky and the water on the ground. I just like how the colors are blended, and I think I'm working with those much better. And I do like the little green trees on the side. I think those turned out pretty nice shape-wise. They do look like trees to me, though they are missing the aspect of looking like they're actually covered in snow. I also think I'm starting to get the hang of actually making the snow feel like it has some depth, making it actually look like real snow that someone could walk through. But as for the aspects I don't like, it's pretty much everything else. The blending and the colors just still aren't hitting that actual illusion of reality that I want them to. And the worst element that you can probably imagine, that I didn't even show you myself doing this, is the trees on the left-hand side. I really was struggling with those trees, so what I did was I used one of the special brushes I downloaded, but it really just didn't end up looking proper. It didn't look at all like the trees that were in the reference video, so I didn't even bother showing myself making them because I didn't even like them in the end. But I do believe I handled those much better in the second attempt. Overall, I think we're getting there. I think I just need to work better with my cooler colors. So let's not waste any more time and just get right into attempt 2. Here is me beginning attempt 2, and right off the bat, like I mentioned earlier, I am using a different brush set, which you can see in the side. While I did enjoy those other brushes, I decided to look around to just see about other special oil painting brushes, unique original brushes that I could use within Krita that I thought might help me out a bit more. So I decided to download this set, and I really liked the way it looked. I don't know how to describe it, but I really liked the way these paint brushes worked with blending colors and just creating different form and again the illusion of weight within the actual tools. So I don't know, I just liked them, so I decided to use them for this second attempt. You might disagree since, like I said, they do lack a lot of the actual thickness that I had been really struggling with before, but I don't know what to say. I just really like the way they look. They look so pretty to me, and I really do end up liking this attempt more by the end. Right now, once again, we're pretty much going through the same formula that we had been using from the start. We start out with this sky in all of the warm colors, and then we're going to move on to the cooler colors later. And again, like I said, I just really enjoy the way these colors blend, even though they don't have that real paint oily thickness that I had been using before. I just thought this ended up looking really nice. I like the blending more. I think that's why I was kind of latching onto these brushes, because I had been struggling so much with the color blending and mixing, and this time around it just seemed to work so much better for me with these brushes, so I decided to use them. So again, we're going to be following the same pattern we had been following from the start, having the warm colors in the sky, and then we're going to be moving on to the cool colors in the ground, starting with the road and then eventually the snow. So overall, I will say that with this attempt, I did enjoy it much more than I had been enjoying the previous attempts. First of all, not only have I done this painting about 4 times at this point, and it was getting easier for me to, get the hang of knowing what I needed to do, but also I just really enjoyed working with these brushes. I felt that they were, I had worked so much with this sketch and with putting these colors on the canvas that I was able to just come up with a flow that was allowing me to do it so much easier. I think in the first few attempts I spent hours just getting the painting done, whereas in these other attempts I was lowering my time down, where I was spending maybe only just over 1 hour working on the actual painting itself. So overall, I'd say it's been going pretty well. Once again, I'm not going to show the entire process since this always takes a long time, but I will highlight the areas where I think I have shown more improvement. In particular, like I mentioned last time, the trees. I do think that the trees came out much better this time. Again, I think these brushes were just better for working with just abstract shapes and making shapes actually look like real forms and actual, trees and snow and the road. Again, I don't know what it is, but these brushes to me just worked so much better than the previous ones had. I just liked the way the color looked, and by the way, you will see later on, I do end up kind of changing the sky. The way I had the sky originally, I really loved the way it looked, but I started adding a few more thicker paints to it to try to highlight the brightness of the sky, and I'm going to be honest, I couldn't decide which one I liked more. I think one was definitely much more accurate, and I'll show you them both at the end. One was much more accurate to the original reference and source material, but I really just liked both of them. I couldn't decide which one I liked more. I thought they were both very pretty, but we'll get to that later on. Right now, you're going to see me start working on things like the trees, the snow, and adding all those extra details. And again, with these brushes, I was just feeling better with, even though they look pretty flat, I was able to get the feeling that there was some weight to the actual snow and to the road on the ground, the pathway. And overall, I think it was also working much better with perspective and actually making it look like this snowy path was going somewhere into the distance rather than it just being a flat surface. So overall, I did really enjoy that. Skipping forward a bit, I do finally start working on these trees on the right hand side, and for the first time since I've done this painting attempt, I actually feel like I was able to blend the colors well enough that it actually looks like not only are these trees with form, but that they are trees covered in snow rather than just being odd shapes with random different colors on them. To me, it actually finally looks like these are trees and they have snow on them, and I'm very happy with that because that was one area where I was struggling the most. I really just don't have too much experience, like I said, painting landscapes and painting different things like trees, rocks, water, and so on, but finally, after so many attempts, I do believe things are looking much better, and these trees on the right-hand side, I'm very proud of. To me, they actually look like they're trees with snow on them. Even if they don't have the same thickness, I just really am happy to get the form there. You're also going to see me, like I said, go back and forth working on this sky, adding more details. As for these trees on the left-hand side, I do end up changing those a little bit because initially I had been attempting to use different special brushes to make the leaves easier, which I have done it before, but I didn't end up liking the way it looked. First of all, I don't mind using brushes like that. I don't mind, making things easier where you're just kind of stamping along different bundles and bushels of, leaves because it takes so long to do it by hand. Now you can see me working a bit more on the sky, like I said I was going to before, and you're gonna see me clicking back and forth between the original sky and the new sky because, like I said, I really couldn't decide which one I liked more. I think both are very pretty, but one is a bit more vibrant than the other. It, to me, looked a bit more accurate to our reference material, but like I said, I will show images of them both just to let you guys decide which one you like more. But back to the trees, I don't mind using special brushes to make things like drawing and painting out bushes easier or water, because we are in a digital program. I think we can take advantage of those properties of having one, but I do like to try to keep things classic, you know, only focus on using natural brushes to make my different trees, bushes, whatever else is going to be in the painting, all types of greenery. So you're gonna see me attempt to use some brushes, but I really honestly don't even end up liking the way the brushes look. So what you see me eventually do is go back to my brush set that I've been using this entire time, and I wind up painting the leaves just naturally like that. And I actually end up liking the way that looks more than I do with the little brushes that I've been trying. So you're going to see me try out a few different special brushes where the leaves are already made for you, and while it does look nice, I just don't think it was the right aesthetic for this particular painting. So you're going to see me end up erasing it, taking it away, and then doing it naturally with another brush later, one from the original brush set that I had been using this entire time. And I do end up liking that the most. That's what you're going to see me keep toward the end. So now is the point in the video where you're actually going to see me use one of these brushes from this brush set to finally create the bundles of leaves on these trees and adding the snow on top. And like I said, this is the first time where I truly felt like these looked pretty decent. I'm not going to say they're perfect because they aren't, and I could definitely make some improvements, but this is the first time where I actually manually sculpted out the shape and form of the leaves instead of just, again, using the brush to do it for me or just making haphazard random shapes. This time I actually looked at the form of my reference and put it onto the canvas, and overall I think it wound up working out better than my previous attempts. So overall, I will say that even though these paintings aren't perfect, I'm still learning, I'm still growing with the process. Not everything is going to be something where you just get it and get the hang of it immediately, or it takes you 2 attempts and then you finally got it. It's going to take several different attempts, lots of practice to finally get the hang of things, guys. And that's what I want you to know. That's why I want to show you guys all of this entire journey, my entire experience, because I want you to see how long it has taken me just to get a painting that I think looks at least halfway decent. We're going to be continuing on with this study, but not with this painting any further. But before we get to that, I'm going to just wrap things up with this particular painting. Since we're nearly done, I'm just going to be adding some finishing touches here with the stones on the ground, and then I'm going to show you the final version of this painting, well, both versions, one with this sky that you see along with the other sky, and we're going to talk a bit about them. So here are both of the paintings side by side. As I said, the only difference here is the sky, with one being much more vibrant, but I don't know, guys, I just like them both. Even though the one on the right, the more vibrant one, I guess emphasizes the idea of a sunset that much more, I really still can't decide. I think they both look really nice. But I will take that vibrant one and put it side by side with attempt 1, along with looking at Robert Mee's painting, and then we're going to give our final analysis. So here are all 3 paintings side by side, Robert Mee's from his YouTube video, attempt 1 from the first half of this video, and then attempt 2. And I will say, like I said, I definitely see the improvement. I'll also put the Rebel paintings on screen as well, just so you guys can see where we started out and where we are now. I can definitely see the growth. We're starting to actually get the hang of creating an actual landscape, adding depth to our painting with the snow, the trees, blending the colors properly for the sky, and overall, I can personally see the growth, and I think I'm getting one step closer to being able to properly handle creating landscape digital paintings. So overall, I've been really enjoying this study, but we're not done yet. Like I said, I do want to go back to Rebel, but I won't be using this painting as a reference anymore. I love this painting, but I think we've seen it enough. And I mentioned last time that I want to try out something different, not only with the painting reference, but also with the medium. The only paintings I've done so far in both Rebel 7 and Krita have been oil paintings, but I also really want to try out painting with watercolors. So that's what we're going to be doing next in part 3. So you guys can tune in for that. Once again, I will emphasize that Escape Motions is having a 30% sale, so if you want to check out the digital painting program Rebel 7, I will include a special link for that in the description, and I will also link the website for Krita as well if you want to try out that program. Again, a wonderful program for not only digital painting, but also illustration, animation, and anything else you can think of, and once again, it's completely free. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this video, and I will see you guys in part 3. Thank you.